Hello, this is Red Cynic project. We are looking for flaws and flaws there they are, and there where people believe they aren't. Let's talk about fantasy. Many excellent and high-budget TV series in historical and sci-fi genres have been shown in the past few years. Rome, Fringe, Supernatural, Spartacus and great number of others. However, for a long time, producers and TV channels very carefully approached it to the fantasy genre, until finally in 2011, Game of Thrones were aired. Splendid stage sets, great costumes, awesome actors, and of course, authenticity. Where there should be dirt, dirt it is. Where there should be blood, blood it is. Frayed cloth doesn't look like it just came out from the wardrobe. It, well, frayed. Armor, implements, weapons, other similar and well designed. In short, everything is there where it belongs. Well, you know, some people think that because we are making a fantasy movie, it is necessary to put some crazy shit in it.
I know what you're thinking. Don't. No. Oh, it's gone.
Game of Thrones, however, doesn't have anything like that. You simply believe in things in it. This series did on television what Peter Jackson did on the big screen. Took fantasy genre seriously, just like it deserves. Of course, big credit to that goes to source material and its writer, George Martin. When first book of A Song of Ice and Fire saga came out, it received a warm welcome from readers and critics. And almost immediately, Martin began to receive numerous propositions about filming. Good literature is always good. But is novel so good? Is TV series so blameless? Let's find out by comparing the book, the show, and common sense. In short making of episode, George Martin stated that Ned Stark is the main character of the show. That's not quite right really. Structure of a series is much more like structure of a book, where each chapter is dedicated to a different character. Therefore, much more precisely to say that main characters of the show are Ned or Eddard Stark, members of his family, and members of Lannister's clan. And somewhere near to that are Daenerys, daughter of a previous king, Khal Drogo, local Chinggis Khan, and Moron King Robert Baratheon. Ned Stark is the ruler of the Northern Lands and a glorious warrior. By the book he is 35 years old, but in TV show he looks much more like 50. He has a wife, 5 children, plus, or it's better to say minus, 1 bastard. His wife by the book is a very little past her 30 years, but here she looks like she's near 45. As a matter of fact, almost every character of the show was made older. For example, Bearded Rob and Jon are in truth 14 years old. Lannisters are the most malicious SOBs here. And most important of them are Queen Cersei, her twin brother Jaime, their brother Tyrion, and their common father Tywin. By the way, twins regularly fuck with each other. And that fact is very important, because have significant influence on the story. Main story begins when King arrives to Stark's castle to offer him a Hand of the King title. Eddard agrees, and from that very moment starts his and his family problems. Primary source of these problems are Lannisters, of course. But Ned himself helps them a lot by his idiotic actions and inactivity. King Robert looks like he's 55, but in book he's 36 years old. He is true noble sovereign, literally crushed by the press of state affairs, such as drinking, hunting and fucking. Such busy and anxious life. Without an assistant, all of this will be impossible, indeed. In 15 years of his kingship, Robert drove his country into sick debts. Of course, someone is needed to resolve these matters, or at least to give King a time for more drinking, hunting and fucking. And Stark becomes that someone. Soon he goes to a capital with his daughters. And if younger daughter isn't annoying even a bit, the oldest one, portrayed as total shit, which is ready to spit upon all of her relatives, because Prince Joffrey, so handsome, and his golden hairs fall upon the golden bow, and he has his mommy's eyes, and he just so cute. Dumb blonde. Meanwhile, Bastard John, pouring into sturdy ranks of rapists, deserters, poachers, and perverts of all kinds, and just like them, becomes watchman on the wall, which supposedly out to defend southern lands from animals and savages. At the same time, story follows the survived kids of previous king, Viserys and Daenerys. In latter, her brother sees only tool for concluding an alliance with Nomad's leader, Khal Drogo, in order to assault the Seven Kingdoms and seize back that was unjustly taken from him. Viserys suffers from the terminal stage of megalomania syndrome and mentally lives in some strange world of his. Daenerys had no such issues yet. She's 13 years old by the book, but scriptwriters added several years to this character, just like they did to others. Nevertheless, in contrast to others, she was also endowed with an awesome ass and boobs of the 25 years old woman, apparently in order to avoid jail for pedophilia propaganda. Of course, Khal doesn't give a shit about desires of his wife's brother and mainly occupied with the sexual intercourses with his young spouse. And that kinda sums up his role. They ride all the morning, ride all the day, and fuck all the night. That's their daily schedule. In the meantime, Ned, after his arrival to the capital, tries to discover why his predecessor has died. And that is the main intrigue of the first book. Remember that twins like to have fun in the bedroom? Well, surprisingly, the cause of death of previous Hand of the King appears to be the knowledge that King's son doesn't look like his supposed father.
Lord Oris Baratheon, black of hair. Axel Baratheon, black of hair. Lionel Baratheon, black of hair. Stefan Baratheon, black of hair. Robert Baratheon, black of hair. Joffrey Baratheon, golden head.
And only one man in the whole country notices that, and that is conclusive evidence of the Queen's adultery. I suppose Martin slept over all of his biology lessons, and thinks that albinos, for example, born because wives cheat their husbands with the polar bears. But let's back to our Martins, or rather, one Martin. Stark demonstrates total political blindness and exaggerated sense of honor by offering Queen chance to get hell out of the capital peacefully, because then the king will return from another spree, Ned will give her away with a lock, stock and barrel. Evidently, he really expected that woman who desires the power so much will pack her things and just goes. Meanwhile, King, while being drunk almost unconsciousness, is mortally wounded by a bow. You think Robert, while he is still alive, will summon as many nobles and officials as possible and force them to give public oath of fidelity to Stark as regent? Nope. Instead of that, he sends everybody out from the room and writes a will. That shows how good King does know his people, or it's better to say, doesn't know them. Because first of what he should do is to obtain oaths of Lannisters and Baratheons, first candidates for struggle of power, and do it in public. Okay, suppose the king is an idiot, But what Stark is doing? Nothing. He thinks that he'll show that tiny whiny piece of paper and everything will be okay. Well, nothing of the sort happens and it serves him right. He was betrayed, thrown to dungeon and later executed. And yes, his actions put his family into deep shit. In short, that is the entire story of the book. Charming. Okay, let's get this straight. Hand of the King, practically second person of the state, head of one of the strongest lands of kingdom, is unable neither to think up nor to ensure his own safety. He takes only handful men to the capital, as if he goes to take a shit, not to rule the country. Permits humiliations of him and his family, like slimy slug. He is asking somebody to do something, begging and chewing his snuffles. As if he was absolute imbecile, he ignores all signs of conspiracy against him. Fuck, he even shits on direct warning of his daughter by telling her something like, "Uchi uchi uchi, go to sleep." He notifies dangerous enemy who is intrigue mega expert about his plans and dies stupidly. I think it is time to mention the main flaw of the book, which was successfully camouflaged in TV series by long timing and splendid performance of the actors. The thing is that you get a sense that George Martin thinks that sole method to force reader to empathize character is to fuck that character. Fuck him hard. Let's call that the Martin's principle. Daenerys, for example, white-haired Dany. At first she was factually sold to the Numas chieftain by her blood brother, who humiliated her all the time. Then this chief, Khal Drogo, played by Jason Momoa, fucks her literally. And yes, he fucks her hard. By the way, it was shown as a rape in the TV series, but by the book she kinda liked it. Later Daenerys and Drogo fall in love with each other. I must admit that Jason Momoa is very cool. But not for long. Dany saves from the Nomads some old witch during one of the raids. In gratitude, witch kills an unborn child of the young couple and turns to the vegetable Drogo himself. Feel sorry for them. Remember the Martin's principle.
Yeah, baby.
Or Sandor Clegane, bodyguard of Joffrey, that king's pseudo-son. When he was a child, he was disfigured by his own brother because Sandor took this bastard's toy, the Wooden Knight. His face was put onto a red-hot brazier. Later on, Sandor dreamed about killing his brother, but failed. Someone other did it. How frustrating! That another evidence of the Martin's principle.
Yeah, baby.
Or Arya. At first, she suffers from her sister, then because Joffrey slayed the butcher's son, later because her father ignores her warning about betrayal, and, at last, the most hardest torture from the fact that she was unable to save her daddy from execution. And that isn't the end of her humiliations. Author just started. You know, the Martin's principle.
Yeah, baby.
To say it simple, all of Starks get their portion of fucking. Catelyn suffers because her Rocklander's son isn't regaining his consciousness, and because Stark's bastard is somewhere near, and because her sister appeared to be the dumb shit. Bastard suffers because he is bastard. Bran himself suffers because he is crippled, but that isn't enough for Author, who brings down on Kit the hurricane of unpleasant things. So we may empathize for Cripple more intensively.
Yeah, baby.
But enough of this. Let's talk about the basis of the story. And it's full of the flaws and absurdity which creators of the show were trying to nullify where it was possible. For example, the first episode of Story. Do you really think that 3 watchmen came out from the wall, and one of them, just in a moment later, simply found corpses of the wild raiders? Nope. All is much deeper by the book. 8 raiders are running away from mere 3 guards for 9 days. And not just running, they're running home. And they are doing that so fast that 3 horsemen catching up with them only in 9 days. In other words, the meeting of the savages and the watchmen occurred somewhere in hundreds and hundreds miles from the wall. Well, now it's clear why the number of watchmen is so small. It is clear why no one wants to serve on the wall. Because everybody knows about suicidal missions of the Night's Watch. What is not clear is for what reason these few watchmen are trained so hardly all days and nights. To massacre them so stupidly, by sending them to their deaths into the middle of nowhere, for absolutely no reason? Nevertheless, savages have the same dumb shit. Their purposes are the 9-day travel to south, then climbing over the solid ice wall. You know, the wall! 600 feet high. For example, the Great Wall of China is 20-25 feet high. Martin's Wall is multiples times higher. For what reason? As we know, that wall is easily passed not only by savages, but by the animals like werewolves too. Absolutely pointless construction. And Martin is one epic architect.
Yeah, baby.
But let's back to our purposeful wildlings. After crossing the wall, they go to plunder. Whom, I wonder? There are no towns nearby, no farms. Examine the climate. It snows almost all the year here. I suppose Martin is an epic climatologist too.
Yeah, baby.
After savages will gather all the loot, which is snow I suppose, they are to climb over the wall again, and to return home, which, as we remember, is 9 days away. Powerful plan. But I have questions. Is it so necessary for them to return? Why not just stay on the southern side of the wall? Why, instead of climbing the wall, not to skirt around it by the primitive boat on summer or frozen sea at winter? And what I want to know most of all is in what velocity must people run to outrun the horse riders for days?
Usain Bolt has run the fastest 100 meters in the history of humankind.
But there are no answers for these questions.
Yeah, baby.
And this issue is one of many. Attempt upon Daenerys' life, for example. What was the plan of the conspirators? Merchant should have forced her the keg of poisoned wine. She drank it and all problems solved. This means that if she didn't come to the marketplace, or has chosen another day through it, or if someone tasted it before buying or serving, assassination attempt would fail. In other words, chances of succession of this murder are 1 to 99.
Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen.
In principle, that is okay if the assassination was organized by some imbecile, but behind this one are the serious people who rule the Seven Kingdoms. Was it so hard to find some fool or suicide attacker who'll waste you straight on the marketplace for sure and then die? Assassination attempt on the Bran is the much same stupid. Assassin expected that if he shall kindle the fire in the library, then absolutely everyone castle resident will bounce there, and he shall have time to cut the poor cripple's throat. And not just cut, but cut by a noble weapon. The mastermind, spoiler, Prince Joffrey, decided that it will be very noble to kill a noble by a noble weapon, and because of that, he very nobly stole the noble dagger from the noble uncle, Tyrion, and very nobly hired an unnoble man for a noble murder of a noble cripple. And who fell under suspicion when the dagger was found? The Lannisters, of course. So why setting up his own family? Okay, he doesn't like the dwarf, but by setting him up, he will expose his mother and his other uncle and maybe even his grandfather. Another inexplicable stupidity. Just like the episode where twins have chose the nearest tower around for a fuck. It is told that in the medieval time a queen wasn't allowed to be alone with any man except the husband. But by the book and in TV show, Cersei can easily chat privately with anyone she wants and then she wants it. This means that nothing prevented Cersei from coming to brother's room, locking up the door and doing whatever they like. Why the tower then? Offer just wasn't able to imagine the other way to set the feud between two clans. That's why emerged the twins, who have a special fancy for fuck in unexpected places, and 7-year-old wire novice, with the skills of a rock climber. In TV series, the shots of Winterfell with the vivid green grass are very beautiful, but there should lay the snow in fact, regardless of summer. Why the grass then? Maybe one of the brave screenwriters twisted Martin's arms.
Let me at him! Let me at him!
Because by the book, Bran falls from an enormous height not on surprisingly springy grass, but on a cobbled courtyard, and he falls very glamorously. Just broke the spine, like if he fell from horizontal bar and not from the colossal height. In reality, he would smash into a monstrous piece of meat with face of the pig lover from the Hannibal movie. Dead piece of meat. And how about the funniest part of the novel, where Khal Drogo actually melted the gold in the cauldron on the campfire in just few minutes. What? It's so badass cool! Throw golden junk into the pot where was food a moment ago, stir it a little by the spoon, and snap! The gold is melted, and you could pour it on somebody's melon. Epic! But let's look in Wikipedia at least. Melting point of gold is near 1000 degrees Celsius. Open fire temperature is from 300 to 400 degrees Celsius on average. Sometimes in a big wildfire it can rise approximately to 750 degrees Celsius. Well, only dumb bass will equate the campfire with the wildfire. But even so, that just isn't enough to melt gold. In theory, Martin must to know that. That is the school knowledge for God's sake. But it looks like he is an epic mythologist too.
Yeah, baby!
The thing that I don't understand is why that flaw retained in TV series. Beautiful, showy episode, yes, but it's stupid like stupidly stupidness. Nevertheless, the creators of the show cut off many things from the Martin's novel, and of course that was for the best. Strike an example, the 9th episode. I'm impatiently looked forward to an epic scene. Battle of the Stark's army against mountain barbarians, led by Tyrion. So he came out the marquee, packed as I don't know who.
I'm wearing it. You're just being jealous.
Delivers a speech and slam gets the forehead blow with the battle hammer. Accidentally. By the book, everything was different. The dwarf, like mix of the Terminator and Conan the Barbarian, fights against the knights on equal terms, and even kills the horse by the helmet, which has a long pike on the top. There were no helmets with the battle pikes, axes, crossbows and other shit on top, and there were no diamonds on the battle armor or golden swords, axes and arrows. All of that can be gilt to preserve from rusting, but not made of gold. Thankfully, there are no such crocodile poop in TV show. It was cut. Or let's get back to the first episode again. The Night's Watch. Martin writes that titles, ranks and crimes are left behind in another life. Here and now they are defenders of the wall, equal to each other. But what do we see? In the beginning of the book, two Night's Watch veterans are under command of a scumbag, who serves only half of the year on the wall. Because this scumbag isn't just simple scumbag, but titled noble scumbag. Therefore, he commands. There is another thing about this scumbag. By the book, he gave in vigorous synoptic thesis. He said that it can be cold here in 9 days of running from the wall, because it wasn't cold 2 weeks ago, near the wall itself, hundreds miles southerly, in place where ice and snow are almost never thaws. And because all of this, here, 2 weeks later and much more novelly, people just couldn't have froze. Understood? Offer thinks that if, for example, in Sochi, it is possible to be on the street dressed easily at winter, then it can be frosty in Helsinki too, and people just cannot freeze there. Awesome! Hail Santa Claus in Hawaiian shirt and shorts. Praise the Martin, the epic meteorologist.
Yeah, baby.
Thankfully, that was cut from TV show. Or the episode of Stark's execution. By the book, Arya swings the sword viciously while trying to save her father. Wasn't it cool to observe how little girl is hacking her way through the thick crowd? But no, fortunately, it was cut off from TV show for good. And there are many things like all that. Too many. I just haven't time to enumerate them all. And you possibly have not patience to hear them all.
Hey, what the fuck?
So let's simply sum up our comparison. It is obvious that creators of the show are well aware of Martin fuck-ups and try to expel them, partially at least, and where the cheerless boredom is dragging on. They added some entertaining episodes, like for example scene with the drunken imp in brothel, or one with Arya and the bow and her pranks. Jaime doesn't look like glamorous faggot and moron. Creators of the TV series added several scenes with the twins where they are shown as quite normal people, not just only dirty brutes. Despite Martin's will, the double-deck omnibus drawn by 40 horses suffered the monstrous changes and became the normal carriage. And so on and so forth in many things. And that was very good for the show. The costumes are authentic now, the armor and weapons got rid of the brilliance, castles, decorations and so on became plausible. It is interesting to observe the characters of the show. Sean Bean did an excellent job despite the role of questionable personage. Stark's Bastards is good. But best of all are the Lannisters and Khal Drogo. Jaime, Cersei, my compliments. The head of Lannister's clan, Tywin, played much more powerful than written his book prototype. And Tyrion is just awesome troll. It's great pleasure to listen to him. Those dialogues almost completely transferred from the book though. And all credits go to the Martin, of course. Despite the fact that Game of Thrones possesses many flaws that are carefully carried on from the novel, it is real jewel of the television all the same. Questionable legacy prevents this series to be a perfect fantasy, but no doubt it remains to be an awesome TV show. Watch it, buy the DVD or Blu-ray. And what about the book? Or the famous biologist, architect, climatologist, metallurgist, meteorologist, battle commander, war historian and simply good fellow George Martin? Well, read it if you want. It's not bad, but not so good either. Regardless of the fuck-ups, Martin's literature language is good. The dialogues and some story tones are interesting, but he is not the icon. Way far from that.
This is Sparta!
That's all for now. I'm Red Cynic, read good books, watch good movies.